If you're looking at your home screen, you're going to see in the customer section this icon that says estimates right over here to the left. If you do not see that, that means you didn't turn it on in your preferences. Let me just review where you go to turn that on. Go back to the menu and click on Edit, and then you'll see Preferences. You want to make sure on the left that you're clicked on Jobs and Estimates, and under the Company Preferences tab, you're going to see the options for estimates right here. You do want estimates, and yes, you do want progress invoicing as well. Once you've told it yes for both of those, click OK, and that estimate icon will appear on your home screen. One thing I want to point out before I click on it is notice that it shows up in the same line here with sales orders and purchase orders. Those three items mean they're non-posting, and what that means is you can create an estimate for a customer all day long, but if they never ask you to do the job, it doesn't really affect your books other than you're going to run special reports on estimates to see those. What I want to do now is go ahead and click on the estimate icon to show you how all of this works. This is your estimate screen. You'll notice the first thing it wants to know is who is your customer, and if you're using jobs, you'll want to choose the job. Always, always, always when you're using jobs, choose the job underneath and not the main customer. If you choose the main customer, reports will say Other. I'm going to use Tom Allen. Notice he has a kitchen remodel job set up. I want to create a new job for this customer. I could click on Add New, but let me show you a shortcut. I'm going to choose my customer name, and at the end of the name, I'm going to put a colon, no space, and then I'm going to put in the name of the job, and this is going to be a pool fence. What's going to happen now is if I hit the Tab key or the Enter key to leave the field, it will tell me that pool fence is not in the customer job list, and I'll just quick add it. Now you'll notice that those two jobs are now underneath the customer, Tom Allen in this case. The next thing QuickBooks has a field for is the class. If you're using the class feature, you want to use it consistently because you want to run reports on classes. And remember that classes allow you to break down information into smaller segmenting for reporting purposes. I could run reports on all of my remodel jobs if I've chosen this class consistently throughout. We're going to talk about templates in a later module, but you have different templates for estimates that you can choose from. The next thing I want to point out is the date. This is going to be the date you're creating this estimate. It will default to today's date unless you've changed it. The next thing is notice the estimate number. Anything that's numbered in QuickBooks will start with the number 1 and number sequentially until you change it. If you want this to be a totally different number, then just change that to whatever number you want, and it will number the rest of them after that sequentially. Here's the customer's name and address that you would set up when you set up the customer. If you happen to realize that they have a different address, or maybe you left out a zip code or whatever, you can go ahead and type it in, and what will happen is when you get ready to save it, it will ask you if you want to save it permanently in their record. If you're shipping items to a job site, you might want to go ahead and add a new ship to address if you don't have one set up, or you can go ahead and put the same information over here. Let's go down to the body of the estimate so that I can show you how this works, and we'll start with the first line. You want to click on the first line underneath where it says item, and you'll see an arrow appears that gives you a list of the different items that you've set up in QuickBooks. This list will not be here automatically. You have to set it up. For now, we're just going to use some of the items in this list, and later we're going to go through and I'll show you how this list works. Let's go ahead and choose labor. We're going to say labor for installing fence, and we'll say that it took us 10 hours and we charged $50 an hour. Notice you have a column that says amount and a column that says markup. The amount column is automatically calculated from the quantity times the cost. The markup column is there because you have the ability in an estimate to mark up any line item a dollar amount or a percentage. I'll do one of each to show you how this works. Let's mark this one up 35, and I'm going to put the percent sign there so it knows. And notice it calculated for me when I tabbed across. The last column that you see here that says tax, that has to do with sales tax. It means that this particular item, because it's a service in this case, is not subject to sales tax. Now we skipped over one, that's the unit of measurement right here. If you have an item that you sell by the yard, by the foot, maybe by the case, you can set that up when you set up the item itself, and then you can choose that from the drop-down list. Let's choose one more item. I want to go ahead and choose a screen door. And we'll say that we are going to have one of these installed. And you can see that it brought in a cost automatically because that was set up when the item was set up. But you can certainly type over that. I'll just go ahead and say $175. And notice the markup. We're going to get rid of that and just mark this up $200. That markup is there automatically because you'll see again when we learn to set up items that if you have a physical item and you tell QuickBooks on average how much you buy it for and on average how much you sell it for, then it creates that markup automatically, which you saw that we could type right over. And you can keep adding as many line items to this as you like. A couple things to notice at the bottom right. It does give you your subtotal. It gives you the total of the markup. It also gives you the total of your taxes, if you have any. And you can see here we did have tax on our physical item, which was the screen door. And then it gives you the grand total down at the bottom. A couple of other things, if you look back over to the left, there is an area for a customer message. There are some generic ones that are set up automatically. You can see those. You can also add one if you wanted to. I'll just go ahead and choose this one. There's also a place for a memo, and you could say anything you want here. We'll just say new job, even though we know it's a new job. And it has a customer tax code, meaning the customer is a taxable customer. Something else I want to point out, if you go back over to the right-hand side, you'll see this gray area. There's an arrow that points back to the left. It says show history. I'll just click on that. And what this does is if your customer already has a history, you can see the open balance, any estimates they already have out there, just some different things about this customer and job. And if you wanted to look at some transactions that would already be here, you can click this tab. Usually this area is open automatically. You can hide it by choosing the hide history. And now here you can choose show history. And that's how that would work. Sometimes I just keep that closed unless I'm really wanting to see something on that list there. That gives you a real quick overview of how to go ahead and set up an estimate. What I'd like to do now is go ahead and stop the video here. I want you to go over to part 2, and what we'll do in part 2 is look at some of the options you have up at the top when you're creating estimates.